So I know that endorsements aren't really an issue per se, and I really wanted to focus this channel on just where these two guys stand on different issues and how these two guys will help or hurt our different Ohio towns. Endorsements don't really fall into either of those pots, but sometimes I think endorsements can be helpful to kind of get a feel for a candidate, kind of wrap your head around who this person is. Is the election, it's in November, and as it gets closer and more people or groups endorse these guys, I will probably have to update this video. Okay, so starting with Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown's endorsements seem to have a lot of unions and organizations that are into workers' rights, organizations that strive for a clean environment for us to live in, breathe in, and work in, good health care, and gun safety. And so I have these color-coded for you to kind of help. I have brown is the small businesses, green is environmental, orange is gun safety, blue is Democrat groups, red is Republican groups, purple is voter protection and voter rights. And so under the people, so far, both Democrats, he has Amy Acton and Shontel Brown who are endorsing him. So Amy Acton used to be the director of the Ohio Department of Health, now currently candidate for Ohio governor. So that's another choice we're going to have to make. And Shontel Brown is a Cleveland area representative. And then unions. So I'm not reading through all these. There's a whole lot of unions. I find notable, so you have a lot of what people will call blue collar workers. But I'm also noting that Nurses for America are here, and the Ohio Federation of Teachers are here, and I also see flight attendants. And so I think nurses, teachers, and flight attendants don't really get the blue collar worker stamp, but they're not really white collar. I don't know. They're like somewhere in between, right? But they endorse Sherrod Brown. Okay, and then for other organizations, and this is where the color coding might come in more handy. Again, blue is Democrat stuff, so it makes sense. The Ohio Democratic Party has endorsed him, and under that I have some specific county and university Democratic groups that have endorsed Sherrod Brown. There's some other Democrat-like groups. I am deciding that they're Democrat-like groups that have endorsed him that are in blue. Green would be some environmental groups. The Sierra Club specifically endorses him because of Sherrod Brown's Great Lakes work. So he's done a lot to try to clean up the Great Lakes. And then down in orange is some gun safety groups, which I appreciate. Can we agree that gun violence is a problem? Can we agree on that? That seems easy to agree on. So that's good. Okay. And then in purple, there are kind of voter rights groups and helping people. Everybody should vote. I mean, citizens, right? Okay. Anyways, so those are all those groups. And if you kind of, again, you can pause the video here and look into each of them yourself if you're like, well, what is that, right? Okay, and then switching over to Jon Husted, the color coding on these endorsements is going to be the same. So brown is small business groups and people. Green is environmental. Orange is gun safety. Blue is Democrat type groups. Red is Republican type groups. And purple is voter protection and voter rights types groups. And so Jon Husted's endorsements have a lot of very high-profile Republicans endorsing him, and that would be MAGA Republicans, some organizations for small businesses, and most of the Ohio County sheriffs. And so for people, you can see his list of politicians, I guess, is longer than Sherrod Brown's at this moment. And so notably, Donald Trump has endorsed him, who we know who that is, Vivek Ramaswamy. And so he is candidate for Ohio governor. So like I said, that Ohio governor is another choice we have to make, and that's Amy Acton versus Vivek Ramaswamy. Bernie Moreno, who is the other Ohio senator right now, has endorsed Jon Husted. And then a number of the Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose, the Ohio Auditor, the Ohio Treasurer, and then Jim Jordan I feel like he's in the news a lot, like on the national scale. So he's in the House of Representatives, and some other Republicans, as you can see, in the House of Representatives. Sorry, Warren Davidson is a libertarian. My bad. And then I've written not just Republican, but like I've given a little hyphen and put MAGA, or for Dave Yost down there, I have shifting towards MAGA because, as you may know, I don't know, were you paying attention in social studies class when you were growing up? Political parties change, over time. There used to be like the Whigs and the Tories. Am I making that up? I remember the Whigs. I don't know. And like those are not as meaningful today. So we have Democrats and Republicans, but now a lot of Republicans seem to be shifting towards MAGA, but there's also a lot of Republicans that are more traditional Republicans who don't really align with MAGA. Like one of the neighbors I have is Republican, but he is like traditional Republican, not MAGA. So anyways, I have put Republican/MAGA or shifting towards MAGA, or in that one case, he's libertarian, but sort of like MAGA libertarian. I just wanted to help with some of those distinctions because that matters to some people. And if it matters to you, I want you to know the info. Okay. And then for unions, as you can see, he has fewer unions than Sherrod Brown did. So Sherrod Brown had a lot more unions. And you can see, so we've got some operating engineers, the Brotherhood of Boilermakers, the National Border Patrol Council. So that's notable. I'll have some videos that talk a little bit about immigration and stuff because I know that is important to some of us. And so maybe it's important to you that Jon Husted is endorsed by the National Border Patrol Council and the Ohio Cattlemen's Association. So that's kind of a big deal. And then other organizations at the bottom, and this is where the color coding came in very handy for Sherrod Brown. Less handy here. As you might expect, the Ohio Republican Party has endorsed Jon Husted, the Sentinel Action Fund, which is a Republican-type organization. And then in brown, I have the National Federation of Independent Business. And so this is a lot of small business stuff. The Ohio Chamber of Commerce has endorsed Jon Husted because of Jon Husted's work with Intel and trying to develop, quote, the Silicon Heartland. So we're like the heartland of America, right? And so the Silicon Heartland. Screw Silicon Valley in California, Silicon Heartland here. And then I had mentioned in a different video about Jon Husted's symbol that sort of represents him. I'll give you a link to that in the video description, that he has pro-life groups mostly endorsing him, and you can see that here at the bottom. The Ohio Right to Life and the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, those endorse Jon Husted. And I had mentioned most of the Ohio County sheriffs have endorsed Jon Husted. And so you can see here 75 of the 88 Ohio County sheriffs are endorsing at this time Jon Husted. And so the other ones, let's see, 75, 85, 86, 87, 88, 13. The 13 Ohio County sheriffs who have not endorsed anybody, some of them look like they might end up endorsing Sherrod Brown, and a handful of them look like they might endorse nobody because they're not doing this political stuff and they're just busy doing their jobs, which I can appreciate that too. Okay. And so the endorsements that these two guys get paint a picture of Jon Husted being sort of under the circus tent of MAGA Republicans, Donald Trump, law and order. And then Sherrod Brown is sort of under the circus tent of pro-worker, people's rights, a man in the trenches with you, right? The truth is, though, these two pictures you kind of get from these endorsements, I mean, they're not spot on. Sherrod Brown isn't exactly for lawlessness and anarchy, and Jon Husted isn't for workers being poisoned by chemicals at a manufacturing plant. So what I suggest is to think of a person or an organization that's meaningful to you, like the most meaningful to you, to your family, and consider voting with that in mind, you know? Anyways, I'll see if I can cram both of those lists of endorsements into the video description so you can look through them and think your own thinkins on what's important to you. And as always, I'm going to give a whole bunch of links to Sherrod Brown and Jon Husted's websites, to some of these endorsement groups, and I will also give you links to how to check your voter registration, how to get registered to vote, the dates, like when you vote, when you early vote, when you vote day of, all that jazz. I'll give you links to all that so you can be on the inside track.